Coming to you from the studios at the Illinois Rock and Roll Museum on Route 66, it's the Rock and Roll Chicago podcast.
Rock and roll Chicago, rock and roll Chicago, my hometown. Well, I was born in the city, gonna rock the city, Chicago. Chicago rock and rollers are the best you're ever around.
Hey everybody, it's Ray the Roadie.
And this is Hollywood Mike.
Hello, Hollywood Mike. How are you this fine evening?
I'm doing good. We've got a new trinket.
I know I was just going to say, we got a new trinket, a very colorful trinket.
It is, and it looks brand new and shiny. I think we might be the first people to actually use this new,
new
mixer here, so we'll have to figure out how it works.
Yeah, our old mixer took a dump, and the beautiful and ever effervescent Mr. Ron Romero was kind enough to get us a new mixing board.
Ron is now effervescent.
He's effervescent. Yes.
We'll have to tell him about that.
I think I'm going to nickname him Club Soda.
Right. I don't know. I'm just going to stay away from that one.
Yeah. But thank you, Ron, for the new mixing board.
That's right.
We really appreciate it.
So this is going to be kind of an interesting episode of the Rock and Roll Chicago podcast. I'm actually kind of excited to...
Because of the new board?
To do this. No, because of our guest.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the new board.
No. We have in the studio with us Mr. Tom Lepper, drummer extraordinaire. And before we get into his bio and everything that he does, we should probably tell everybody a little bit about about how he came to us.
Okay.
So, here at the Rock and Roll Museum, there is an annual ceremony where people are inducted into the museum. Famous people like Jim Peterick would be one example.
I've heard of him.
REO Speedwagon.
Heard of them too.
Those guys, Buddy Guy, things like that. People that have actually gone on and sold records and, won Grammy Awards and, things of that nature. But being that this is the Illinois Rock and Roll Museum.
On Route 66.
I think there was a need to pay homage to local folks that may have made their living as musicians over the years, may have influenced other people in their careers, but maybe never made it to that point themselves where they actually got to hold on to a Grammy Award.
That would be most people.
That would be most.
That would be most, yeah.
Yeah, we have that conversation, I think, a lot that, maybe, the musicians that you heard of before probably represent about 1% of the musicians that are actually in the world, because there are a whole bunch of other people that make their living as professional musicians. They're just not famous. And it doesn't mean that they haven't influenced just as many people and other inspiring musicians.
You are right.
And from what I understand, what we are going to be working on here at the museum is a digital section on the website. Right now, for lack of a better term, or maybe nobody's really engraved anything in stone, but it's going to be called Local Notables. And it's an area where we get to talk about the local folks that may have influenced other musicians coming up and had something to do with our local music scene. And Tom here in the studio, our guest tonight, might possibly be one of the founding fathers of that section on the website, because I think he might actually be the first person that received the letter back from Ron, and I believe there's another young lady by the name of Heather that are in charge of putting that stuff together.
Very cool. Well, let's talk to Tom.
So let's find out a little bit about Tom and see what brings him here.
All righty. Hello, Tom.
Hello, how you doing?
Man, thanks for coming in tonight.
Thank you.
So, we're going to turn this over to you because this is one of these things where, like we had talked a little bit earlier about, somebody might be wondering, okay, well, how come Tom gets to be on the show, and how come Tom's one of the local notables, and, and I'm not, right? So we got to find out a little bit about you and see where you came from and a little bit about your musical roots and how you've contributed to everything. So why don't you go ahead and start?
Well, I was born in Chicago in 1944, and I used to hang out at the Chicago Lawndale Boys Club as a kid, and they had a concert marching band that used to rehearse upstairs. And I was about 10 years old, and I seen the band, and I liked the music, and I said, boy, I'd like to be a drummer someday, So
I bet you your parents loved that.
Oh, yeah.
Why the drums?
So did a nun in my fourth grade class. She said drummers are maniacs.
Smart nun.
Yeah. Anyway, I inquired with the band leader about taking drum lessons, and he said, sure, come on down. So every Saturday morning for $1, we went and sat on a wooden chair and played on another wooden chair and went through the 1 and 2 Haskell Hard drum book, rudimental drum books.
Right.
And until I eventually got good enough to where I was admitted into the prep band and then the concert band and marching band. And they were actually state championship marching and concert band
Right.
at that time.
Who was your drumming idol?
Buddy Rich was probably my favorite. You know, I grew up a long time ago.
Even I know who Buddy Rich is.
Neil Peart, you know, he's an excellent drummer. And forget the guy's name with, shit. I'm lost.
Nah, that's
No problem.
It'll come to you sometime in the middle of the show, and you'll be like, "Ooh, yeah." So, you know, taking a look at your bio, you mentioned a couple of names that, believe it or not, I've heard of before, and I don't know exactly why I've heard of them, and I probably should know. But at what point in time did you start working with I believe it was a Dr. Fabish?
Dr. Fabish.
Yeah. At what point in time was that?
He was my high school band leader at St. Mel High School.
Okay.
And he was also a music director at DePaul University.
Right. And I think that's probably why I've heard of him. Probably more because he was a director at one point in time at DePaul.
Yes.
Do you know what year that was? That when he was at DePaul, or that what time period?
Well, I went from high school from 58 to 61.
Okay.
58 to 62. I was a class of 62.
Okay. And was he kind of doing double duty at both places at the same time?
He was going back and forth. Yes.
Wow, no kidding. So you guys had actually the director of a university band as your band director in high school as well.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
How did that whole situation kind of influence you a little bit?
Oh, it was great. Same thing there. You know, well, with the high school band, they also had a big band dance band type thing, you know, where we'd play for school functions and stuff like that.
Right.
And that was awesome too.
Now, is that about the same time that maybe you started working with like your own bands in high school, just playing around in the city?
Before in high school was I had 2 or 3 bands that I played with. That pretty much happened after high school. After high school, I went in the military.
Right.
Yeah, but as far as rock and roll bands, I did have a 3-piece group with accordion, guitar player, and a drummer. I was a drummer. And the accordion player bought himself a Farfisa. I don't know if it was a Farfisa or not, but an electric piano, one of the first electric pianos, you know.
Oh, yeah,
because the accordion didn't go over too good at the sock hops, you know, with the kids. So we had an electric piano and a guitar and drums.
You know, that reminds me. Did you by chance anybody catch that mockumentary about Weird Al Yankovic?
No, I did not.
Did you see that? What's his name? The actor that played Harry Potter, Daniel Radcliffe, plays Weird Al. And you know, Weird Al is like 6'6". You know, he's not a small guy, but Daniel Radcliffe is like 5'6".
Yeah.
So they got him to play Weird Al. And there's a whole section in the thing about how, you know, he grew up playing accordion.
Yeah.
And they did this whole bit about how he'd go to high school parties and there'd be a lot of drinking and drug use, which he never did.
Yeah.
But all of his friends would always say, "Hey, I'll get your accordion."
Yeah.
and that's something that would never happen.
Yeah.
It was one of the funniest parts of the movie. But you said that, and I'm just totally thinking, I'm just watching some guy up there, you know, ripping and shredding on an accordion. But
nothing wrong with accordion. I know guy, you know Frank Rossi.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he makes a living playing accordion.
Eddie Carosa.
Yeah, oh yeah.
somebody has to, yeah.
Yeah, we did a couple of podcasts with them.
Oh, no kidding, yeah.
Yeah.
They were a lot of fun.
When I was, when I first started playing, I was about 10 years old. Eddie Carosa and Frank Yankovic were playing at a grand opening for Second Federal Savings on 26th and Pulaski.
Yeah.
And my father knew them well. Not my father, my friend's father, who was also a drummer. So he got the opportunity for both of us to sit in right on the sidewalk there in front of the band.
Very cool.
Well, here we are talking about Weird Al, and you actually saw his father performing. Wow, that's pretty neat. Yeah.
I don't think that's his father, Frank Yankovic.
I thought it was. Was it?
I looked it up, or I Googled
Did you?
it, or somebody did. Yeah.
I could be wrong. That's happened once before.
Yeah. I don't know.
No comment. I'm good.
So I was reading in your bio as well, sometime around high school when you were playing like sock hops and things like that, and you mentioned that you got to work with guys like Dick Biondi and Bob Surratt. How'd that come about? Were they like hosting these things or what?
Yes.
Yeah, you get to meet with them and hang out with them and everything.
Yes, at the local high school and the gym,
Right.
And Bob Surratt was at the school where I went to school, Blessed Agnes.
Okay.
It was actually a grade school at the time, when I was playing there with Bob Surratt.
Right.
And then one time we were, it was in the middle of winter, and some band canceled out, and they were having a snowmobile convention and race in Michigan, somewhere up in the north part of Michigan, and Dick Biondi was hosting it, and our agent called us and said, "You guys want to go to Michigan?" We did, and we did that job there with Dick Biondi.
Right. So he was just a host. He was the master of ceremonies or something in the way.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
Okay. All right. Did Bob Surratt play in the band at all with you, or
No,
he didn't.
No.
Were you friends with him? Like, what was he like when you guys were in high
He
school?
seemed a real congenial guy, just like he is on when he was on the news.
Sure.
See,
Very
this
personal.
kind of predates you, but like in the 60s, they used to have these things called sock hops.
Yeah.
I know what a sock hop is.
Okay, and
Yeah.
the DJs would be there, and
Yeah.
Yeah, my
bands.
great grandparents told me about it.
Okay,
Yeah.
put on your socks and go dance in the hallway.
I'm not that young. I know what a sock hop is.
All right.
Well, that's good. Yeah. Okay. All right. And then at what point in time, I'm just kind of going through the timeline, looking at this, just kind of putting together your timeline, in chronological order. At one point in time, you started playing with a couple people that ended up in Chicago. Who was the first person? There was somebody that you played with, I think, after you got out of the service, and they went on to, I think he was a trumpet player in Chicago. What was his name?
With Chicago, he was with the band Chicago. Lee Lockney.
Yes, that's who it was.
Yeah,
That's who it
yeah,
was.
he was in the high school band with me.
Oh, no kidding.
And
all right.
He went to school with DePaul University
Wow.
through Doc Favish, for a scholarship, and then played with Chicago.
What the heck were they putting in the water at your high school? I mean, it just seems like all these musicians started coming out there in the whole
There
bit.
was a lot of good musicians out of St. Mel.
Yeah, no kidding. So you guys were in the high school band together. It wasn't like a rock band or anything that you were.
No.
in.
Well, we also played in that big band, the jazz band that I was telling you about.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Was that like wait, that wasn't the boys club band. That was just an actual working gigging band that you guys.
No, it was a high school band.
It was okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then when did you go into the service?
1962.
62. All right. And did you play in the band or play in the what branch of the service first of all?
First Armored Division, Army.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Did you play in that band?
Yes.
In the Army's band?
I played in it was actually a mounted Jeep band where we rode in Jeeps.
A mounted Jeep band.
It wasn't like that in the beginning. Actually, the First Armored Division was being reactivated under John F. Kennedy because of the Cuban Missile Crisis and things
Right.
that were happening then.
Right.
And the mounted Jeep band came about a year after I was in, where we actually rode in the Jeeps.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But it was pretty cool.
I'm trying to imagine that. That's
Yeah.
to be mounting a drum set and everything in the back of a Jeep and
Yeah.
We had a good name for a band. The Mounted Jeep Band.
mounted Jeep band.
Yeah,
First Armored Division mounted Jeep band.
yeah, that'd be a good name for a band. Yeah,
That'd be like a bluegrass jug band or something like that.
yeah, maybe. Maybe.
Yeah, I can totally get that. Yeah, yeah. We've got some pictures here that he brought in. He's got a picture of that somewhere in there. Oh, no kidding.
And unfortunately, our listeners cannot see it. So
Yeah.
please describe it in detail, Mike.
Yeah. Well,
Pretty uniform, though.
it's a mounted Jeep band.
It is.
I mean, it looks like a bunch of Jeeps driving in formation with musicians in there.
All right.
There's nothing else I can say about it. It's that simple, but it looks really cool.
Well, we'll leave it up to our fans to Google that.
Yeah, to imagine that for sure. Yeah.
That wasn't full time in the band, though, like I wanted. I expected it to be because it was a division band. It wasn't a Fort Hood band.
Right.
It was a division band. So we were in the field half the time,
Okay.
and
Yeah. Right.
maneuvers and everything,
Right. No, absolutely. Understand that. Okay. So, at what point in time did you own your first drum kit?
About 2 years after I got done playing there at the Chicago Boys Club,
Okay.
my parents felt I was worthy of a drum kit,
A whole kit. Yeah.
and they bought me a set of Slingerland.
Slingerland. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Black diamond pearl, bass drum, mounted tom-tom, floor tom-tom, 4-piece, and a snare drum.
Right. Was I'm picturing, drums from that era. I'm picturing that this just had to have been like a huge bass drum, because that's what I'm used to seeing from
No,
that era.
It was a 24, I think.
24. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And I'm not a drummer, but where were the Slingerlands manufactured at the time?
Couldn't tell you.
No.
I think they were made here in America.
Well, yeah, I'm pretty sure they
Yeah,
were.
yeah.
But what is it? Ludwig was the famous
Yeah.
Chicago
Right,
manufactured drum
WFL,
set.
yeah.
Right. But Slingerlands were made someplace else. I think. Yeah. I've seen. I actually have a friend that has a really old Slingerland set. It's got to be from the 40s, and he's taken amazing care of it. But I swear that that bass drum looks like it's as big around as this table.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like you're not going to be lugging that thing around anymore. So he's got this one that looks kind of like a 5-gallon driveway bucket now. makes it a lot easier. Okay, excellent. Yeah. So tell us about a little bit after the Army.
I just found something.
What's that?
This into the newsroom.
Okay. That's one we can put on the button.
We could. This just coming in. It's a bulletin,
And we're going to have you hum it just like that.
We've got our reporter out on the street. Here's the latest on the Slingerland Drum Company. Says the company's manufacturing plant was later moved to Chicago proper from Chicago proper to Niles, a suburb in Cook County, Illinois.
What year? What year was that? Interesting.
Oh, I'm not sure. When did they move? I don't know. I wasn't this is a bulletin.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to take questions. We're supposed to give you information, and then that was it.
We have to come up with another reason to come up with a bulletin, because I want to hear him do that thing.
Well, they started in 1913. They started in 1913, originally called the Slingerland Banjo Company.
Oh.
Yes.
Well, it's just a drum with a stick on it.
Yeah.
So
That's pretty much, yeah. You're listening to the Rock and Roll Chicago Podcast.
I'm Christy from Crime Cave Podcast. I've had a huge interest in true crime since my days of watching marathons of Snapped back in the mid-90s. I needed an outlet to talk about the cases that have haunted me for a very long time. With each episode under 20 minutes, I shine a light on some of the most bizarre cases in the last 50 years. Join me in the Crime Cave.
Hi, I'm Rick Anthony. I'd like to thank my radio brothers, Ray the Roadie and Hollywood Mike, for allowing me to tell you about my podcast, the Someone You Should Know podcast. We spotlight musicians, authors, and interesting people, and we like to say we're making a difference one artist at a time. The podcast is heard twice a week on Mondays and Thursdays, and you can check it out on your favorite streaming platforms and on the web at someoneyoushouldknowpodcast.com. That's the Someone You Should Know podcast with me, Rick Anthony, making a difference one artist at a time.
Now back to your show.
Yeah, right. So take us after the Army. Did you come back to Chicago right away, or what did you end up doing after that?
I came right back to Chicago, to my parents' home.
Okay.
And I wanted to be a full-time musician.
Yeah.
And
How old were you at that
I
time?
was 20.
Okay. All right.
And my first job was with the Jeannie Carroll Orchestra, doing one-nighters. We started in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, went up the East Coast through the Georgia, the Carolinas, Virginias, across the Midwest, Indiana, Illinois, Kansas, all the way to, I think it was Minot, North Dakota.
Wow.
Before we split up.
I've been to Minot, North Dakota.
Doing one-nighters. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
How many years did you do that?
It lasted about not even a year.
Oh, really? Okay.
Just pretty strenuous.
So you saw a lot of the country in a very short amount of time doing that kind
It
of
was
thing.
beautiful, yeah.
Right. And what was your kind of style of music at that time? Was it rock and roll? Was it jazz? What were you
Well, I was
playing more?
playing mostly jazz when I got out of the service because those were the musicians that I hung around with.
Right.
That world-renowned Julius Hemphill was an alto saxophone player.
Oh, I was going to ask you about that. You've played with him.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
We did a concert in Corpus Christi at the Municipal Auditorium there on the Gulf of Mexico. And we were top billing. We weren't top billing, but we were front page of the Corpus Christi newspaper.
Okay.
I still have a copy of it. Yeah.
Like a one-night show?
Yeah. it was
Just kind of opening for him?
Yeah,
stuff? Okay, that's interesting. Well, did you get a chance to just hang out with him and work with him a little bit? Yeah.
We played several times. We used to go to Austin every Friday night and play in bars there where they had open jam sessions.
Right.
From Friday night till Sunday morning.
Nice.
You know, met a lot of musicians, mostly jazz musicians.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Was there ever a point in time or when was it that you kind of made a move over to maybe rock and roll or something like that?
That was after I played rock and roll in the service too. I had a rock and roll band.
Okay.
And then after I got out, it was strictly all rock and roll.
Oh, okay.
I got to give up the jazz scene. It wasn't lucrative enough to be making money, making a living,
Right. But what year was it? When did you get out of the service?
62.
62. Okay. All right. And I've got another note on here. After you played with Julius Hemphill, you had the opportunity to play with or at least open up for what was Peter Cetera's band at the time?
Peter Cetera played with the Exceptions
That's it. Exceptions.
at the Aragon Ballroom.
And oh wow, that's where you played with.
We
them.
were both playing there
Okay.
on the main stage.
All right.
I was with the group called the Dantes.
Okay. Yeah.
The Exceptions.
Yeah, we saw that picture. Okay.
Yeah, and this is the only guy that ever said this to me. If I got to the job early enough, I'd always sit down and warm up,
Right.
And he says, "Well, I've never seen a drummer warm up before a gig before, So that's how I always remember Pete Cetera,
Yeah. I've never seen them warm up. They're
Yeah.
usually out getting the pizza or whatever.
But we were sharing the big stage, and there was a band in the lounge out in the lobby called Chambers Brothers.
Okay.
They're from England. They were really good. They had a band called Time. They're a good band.
Right. Any of the guys in some of these other bands you've named, have they gone on to be in bigger bands or do other things, or do you keep in touch with a bunch of them, or?
I keep in touch with the guys from a band called Rooster, which was the best rock and roll band I played with. That was in the 70s.
Now, didn't that band start off as another name though? Didn't you change it to?
Chicago Choir.
Okay,
Because
gotcha.
because of their harmonies. They did a real lot of harmonies.
Nice.
Three Dog Night, Association, stuff like that. 4-part harmonies.
Right. Now, is that the band? I think you said you also played with Rufus and Shaka Khan. Was that the band that you were talking
No,
about?
the band I was playing when I was with Rufus and I was Rooster. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we weren't playing with them. We were tearing down and they were setting up, or we worked through the same agency.
Right. Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So, we're moving our shit out of the club and
Yeah.
they're moving their stuff in.
What was that?
I hit the spring here.
We'll make that one of our buttons.
Yeah.
Somebody says something. Yeah. That was good. Did you get a chance to talk to and meet Gary Loizo when you guys were kind of crossing paths with Rufus and
No.
Shaka Khan? No, you didn't. Okay. Yeah, he was Gary Loizo. I actually did. I had the opportunity to work with him just a few years before he passed away.
No kidding.
Yeah, he. I had a friend who was a retired Chicago teacher.
Okay.
Or as you could say, he was in like the Illinois Teachers Union, not necessarily Chicago. I believe
Yeah.
he taught out in St. Charles. And he's a piano player. And he was putting together his own album to sell online. And all the proceeds were going to go to this organization for teachers that he was involved in. I think literally all they were doing was raising money for teachers because, nowadays teachers have to buy their own pencils. Teachers have to buy their own notebooks. They've got to buy all their own, stuff that they need in classes. And he said, "Would you come down and, do some vocal tracks for me on a few songs?" And I was like, "Sure, not a problem. Where are we going to go?" And he goes, "Oh, a friend of mine over in Orland Park." And I walk in and it's Gary Loizo.
Well, I'll be darned.
And I mean, he's got this wall full of gold and platinum records and from Styx and REO Speedwagon and all these things are on the wall. And here I am working on vocal tracks with the legendary Gary Loizo for a CD that's just going to raise money to buy pencils.
Wow.
That's still important.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And every like once a year I get the picture pops up on my social media timeline is like like my memory and stuff, and I absolutely love that picture. So that's my little connection there that we probably had a little brush with fame together. So I can't read my own writing.
Oh no, that definitely sounds like a problem.
Oh yeah, so tell us a little bit. How'd you tell us a little bit about your brush with fame in the form of Brownsville Station?
Okay. We were on the road again.
Right.
And
that's an interesting story, actually.
We lost our guitar player, and
he didn't die.
no,
Okay, that's good. I was wondering about that.
he walked off on us. We were playing at a club called the Golden Falcon.
Okay.
In Ann Arbor, Michigan, big college town.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And he walked off on us. He didn't get along with the band leader. Like I said, we were that particular band. We were boat hired sidemen, and him and the chick were the stars.
Right.
So after he walked off, there was a music store, Al Nally's music store in Ann Arbor, that this kid used to hang around in. Every time we went in there, he was there. And the band leader talked to him, and he says, "Well, I don't know. I just got out of high school. I don't know if my dad will let me. I don't think he was 18 yet."
And what was his name again? Who was
Mike Cubby Coda.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
Yeah. And he asked his father, and his father let him go with us. And he traveled with us the rest of Michigan and Wisconsin, Minnesota,
right,
Rochester, Minneapolis, all over.
How long was that? Was it a few years or just a few months or?
That was probably almost I want to say 8-9 months maybe, because my son was born in Ann Arbor, and I want to say he was 8 or 9 months old when the band split up.
Wow.
That was when he asked me to go back to Ann Arbor with him and put together the Brownsville Station.
Wow.
And I told him, I said, "Well, I got a wife and a baby and no money coming in,
Right.
I got to go back to Chicago." So, which is what I did. And a couple of years later, he comes out with Smoking in the Boys.
And then you spent the next couple hours just banging your head against the wall from it.
Another one-hit wonder.
Yeah, but yes, it was a one-hit wonder.
Yeah.
But then along comes
Motley Crue.
1985.
Yeah.
And Motley Crue comes out with the Theater of Pain album.
Yeah.
And Smoking in the Boys' Room blows up.
Yeah.
And probably made him a lot of money.
Yeah.
Wow. No kidding. Well, that's interesting. Now, did you guys hired him as a guitar player?
Correct.
But in Brownsville Station, he was their keyboard player, wasn't he?
No, he was a guitar player.
He was a guitar player?
Yeah,
Okay.
He
All right.
played harp too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a good story. Wow. See, so you influenced Motley Crue.
Yeah.
Indirectly.
Sounds good to me.
Indirectly, if it comes down to it.
Yeah.
That's right. All right. And, I guess the last thing that kind of stuck out as I was kind of looking into you and finding out, you were playing back in Chicago and like over in the Rush Street area and the whole bit. And then I believe Buddy Miles paid you a nice compliment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was playing at, I think we were playing at Rush Over. Rush Over was on the ground floor of the Hotel Maryland. Mm-hmm. And there was another club across the street owned by the same people, called Rush Up.
Okay.
And it had a lot of stairs. We played there also, but it had a very steep set of stairs, which we had to haul that Hammond B3 organ,
Oh, gosh, yeah.
But anyway, we'd take a break, and there he's sitting there at the table, and I looked. I said, "Holy shit, that's Buddy Miles."
Right.
And he says, "Hey, how you doing?" I says, "Good. How are you?" He says, "What are you doing here?" Because they were playing across the street. I don't know if they got off early or, they had some time in between breaks.
Right.
He says, "I come to see the hottest drummer on Rush Street." So I thought, wow. Where's he at?
Yeah. Well, I don't know where he went, but I'd love to sit down and have a drink with you. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
The hottest drummer on Rush Street.
That's what he said.
Very cool.
Well, you had to have earned that nickname some kind of way. I mean,
Well, I played a lot of drums.
did you ask him? Did you ask him how who he heard that from? And
No. I played up there a lot, though, with, different bands, not just Rooster.
right,
The Spiral Staircase and Utah, which was the same band,
right. I wonder if that area you're talking about on Rush Street over there, as you're describing it, I'm wondering if it's that area where, I think Tavern on Rush is there now, because there's an area where there's like a lot of outside staircases and multi levels of different clubs and everything.
Yeah.
I think there's like the Gibsons is over there and Hugo's Frog Bar is over there. And,
I haven't been there
and stuff like that.
30 years, 40 years.
Yeah. Did you ever spend some time like on the south side, like off of Halstead and stuff, over by the what was it, like the area where the old Maxwell Street Market was and stuff, and over there at Maxwell and Halstead stuff? You ever play over in that area?
I don't recall playing exactly in that area, but I used to go to what they call Jewtown on Sunday mornings on Halstead and Maxwell.
Right.
Buy stuff,
Yeah.
And we used to play in places in the M&M Club, the Merchandise Mart, and the high rises in the Loop, which wasn't that far from Halstead Street there.
Right.
And we used to get our costumes
Right.
from Smokey Joe's on Roosevelt and Halstead.
Smokey Joe's at Roosevelt and Halstead.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's where they sold all the flamboyant looking bling clothes.
Right.
Bell bottoms and everything.
I'm trying to think where that was. I went to UIC.
Okay.
Well, back in those days, they would have called it Circle Campus, right?
Yeah, all right.
And I was a kinesiology major, so I spent most of my time in the PE building, which is right there at that intersection, at Roosevelt and Halstead. And I'm trying to think where that might possibly be, because the only other place I can think of is Sid's, which is actually that's on Roosevelt, just east of Halstead.
It was on Halstead, just maybe 2 stores south of Roosevelt,
Right.
on the northwest corner.
Right. I brought that up because my grandparents loved to go dancing, and my grandfather was a carpenter, worked for the city of Chicago as a carpenter all of his life. And he'd get home every day at around 3:30 or 4 o'clock, and by 7 o'clock, him and my grandmother were out in that area just dancing. And it would be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night. It didn't matter. It didn't matter if he had to get up at 4 o'clock the next day or whatever. They were out dancing, and he used to tell me stories all the time about going down to that old Maxwell area.
Yeah.
He'd walk into one bar, and Howlin' Wolf is playing. And he'd walk out of that bar and go across the street, and Muddy Waters is playing.
Yeah.
And he'd go to the next bar, and there's Chuck Berry in town, just finished recording a record, and there's Chuck Berry playing in the next bar. And I just can't imagine what that would have been like to be in that area, to just see all those guys, just go bar hopping and see all these legends, just musicians cutting their teeth. It's pretty amazing. So, I'd say, guys like you are a world of knowledge. You are a library of music and experiences, from eras that people don't pay attention to now. Everything's electronic nowadays. Nobody wants to take the time to learn how to play the drums when you can just hit a button and go do. It's what kind of advice would you give some younger kids nowadays that are thinking about learning to become a musician, just in general, or the drums specific? Give us some parting words of wisdom.
Well, I would say if you have anything in your heart to play music, it's a very good line to be into.
Yeah.
I mean, even if it's just for yourself, it opens up your heart.
Right.
It says things in your mind that you would never say. It's feeling. It's feeling. Continue if you can.
Right. Did you pass that along to any of your children? Any of the musical
my oldest
talents?
boy's still playing drums.
Good.
In Arizona, yeah.
In Arizona?
Yeah.
Wow, okay. Full time or is it just like his hobby? Full time? Part time?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Excellent. Excellent.
But he works pretty regular.
Yeah. That's good to hear. That's good to hear. You still getting out and playing at all?
No, not recently. It's been about a year, you know.
Right.
I had those congas and those bongos. Like I say, I sat in with acoustical guitar players in different bands, Silver Strings and Wicked
yeah.
Vic, you know.
Right.
Those people.
Gosh, I've heard of Silver Strings.
Oh, they've been around a long time.
Yeah, okay.
Kind of a bluegrass, rock and roll,
Right.
everything band, you know.
Right.
Pretty good.
Right. Well, that's good. That's good. Well, I'll tell you what, you've come out and seen me a few times.
Yeah.
If you ever get out there again,
Love it.
drop me a line. I'd love to come out and see you.
All right.
For sure. Yeah.
Sounds good.
It's a compliment.
Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot for coming out tonight.
Thank you.
Do appreciate it. It was
Been a
great talking to you.
Appreciate having you here.
Nice meeting you guys.
Thank you. I feel like going to smoke in the boys' room. I don't even smoke. Well, cigars.
I don't. I don't need to.
No.
No, but well, cigars. You know,
Yes.
cigar. I prefer not. To
You know,
do it
you'd
in the
get
boys'
caught
room.
in the boys' room smoking cigars. You know that. That would.
Yeah,
not,
yeah, easily.
You can get a cigarette, but there's no way you'd smoke a cigar.
Yeah,
Never.
easily.
Mm.
You know, I have a feeling. You know, Tom, if we met him someplace and had a couple of bourbons with him, he'd have a lot more stories to tell.
I'm sure he would.
He's been playing music for a long time, and he's had a lot of those near misses, near brushes with the fame. Can you imagine that? You know, hey, why don't you come join Brownsville Station? Nah, I got a wife and kid on the way. Mm-hmm. And then 2 years later, smoking in the boys' room.
Yep. Exactly. You just don't know.
You don't know.
You
Absolutely
don't know.
not. Absolutely not. But that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and you have an effect on other people too.
Right.
I mean, you play with them. Maybe you passed along some good advice to them, or you just never know. You were in their life at one time, and they made it.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. I'm glad. Tom came up to me. It was one afternoon. Cadillac Groove was playing the Cornfest in Morris, and he came up and introduced himself to me. And I was like, boy, this guy sounds really interesting. And he knew about the podcast and everything. And he told me about this new local notables thing. And hey, however we can promote that, because I think that's fantastic. There should be a few people that we should be able to nominate for sure.
Well, I'm telling you, I bet you there's a lot of local notables. Maybe we'll be able to find some of these people and have them on the show.
Absolutely.
So
How about, I'll nominate you. You nominate me.
Okay, got it.
Deal.
Okay, we'll do it.
Now we
but I
gotta-
think people hear
now
us
we-
all the time. They've had enough of us.
Now we have to do something to be notable.
That's right. That's right.
All righty.
All righty. Well, here's another great podcast for all of you out there in Rock and Roll Chicago podcast land. As always, thanks for listening, and make sure you tune in every Tuesday for another exciting episode of the Rock and Roll Chicago podcast. See you then.
The Rock and Roll Chicago podcast is edited by Paul Martin. Theme song courtesy of M&R Rush. The Rock and Roll Chicago podcast does not own the rights to any of the music heard on the show. The music is used to promote the guests that are featured.
Rock and roll Chicago. Rock and roll